Hey y'all, thank you so much for joining me for this What's for Dinner. So let's start off with this chicken pesto pizza. So for the pizza dough, I decided to go with the popular 2-ingredient Greek yogurt dough that is so good for so many different things, but especially pizza. And all that is 1.5 cups of self-rising flour to 1 cup of Greek yogurt. And you just mix that together and press it out onto a greased pizza pan. And I'm actually going to pre-bake this at 450 degrees for 5 minutes. This will just ensure that that crust cooks properly before you add those toppings. But now that I have pulled that out from the oven, I can add my pesto. So I had a little less than half a jar in my fridge from a previous recipe that I wanted to be sure to use up first, and then I opened up a new jar. You'll need at least half a cup. I believe I use a little bit more, but just do whatever you think. It really doesn't have to be an exact measurement. Just do it to your taste. But once I got that spread out evenly, I'm going to add some ranch. I know that may sound really weird, but just trust me, it works so well with this. It makes it more of like a creamy pizza sauce, and it just gives it that little bit of tang. I have been loving the Bolthouse Farms Greek yogurt ranch dressing for quite a while now. I know that when I first tried it, I really didn't care for it too much, but I was just looking for something that was less calories since we do use ranch pretty often, and now I absolutely love it. My kids and Josh don't really care for it though, so I do still buy the regular stuff for them. But yeah, they didn't notice it in this recipe, of course, since it was mixed in with the pesto. But now, as you can see, I'm adding my chicken. I just use a shortcut, my favorite shortcut in the kitchen, and that is just to use a rotisserie chicken. I buy mine from Walmart. It just saves a lot of time, especially on those busy weeknights, and it makes it super nice. But now that the weather is starting to warm up finally, at least where I live, and people are starting to grill out more, I think it would be an awesome idea to grill the chicken for this recipe and then actually grill your pizza. That is one thing that I have never done, but it is on my to-do list. I think that would take this up to like a level 100. But now, as you can see, I'm adding my mozzarella cheese. I always use at least 2 cups for a pizza this size, and I've recently discovered if you put your chicken under the cheese, it will prevent it from drying out. But I just baked that for 12 to 15 minutes, and here is what it looks like. It doesn't look that big on camera, but this is actually a pretty big slice of pizza. Like, that pizza pan is huge. But let me tell y'all, this pizza was amazing. One of the best homemade pizzas I've made in a long time. Even my kids loved it, which shocked me because of the pesto, but we fully enjoyed this. And I just served it with a simple side, and that is some just raw cucumbers. I have been loving that lately, sprinkled with some lemon pepper seasoning. I'm popping in for the bacon cheeseburger pasta because I accidentally deleted the first clip on my camera, and I tried every way in the world to bring it back and I couldn't. So I'm so sorry about that, but I figured I could at least hop on here and explain the few steps that I couldn't show you. So all I did was brown up 1 pound of ground beef. I just hit the saute mode on my Instant Pot, and I always season my ground beef with salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. Once it was fully cooked, I drained off the grease and added it back to my pot. At this point, I just turned off the pot. And then I added in a can of beef broth, which is usually 2 cups, 2 cups of milk, and 3 cups of pasta. The recipe calls for cavatappi. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. This is really similar. It's just called something different. But really, just use whatever pasta you want to. But these little spirals do make it a little bit more fun. I also added in a can of cheddar cheese soup, just like the Campbell's brand. And then I thought this was really interesting. So the recipe called for a can of cream of bacon. I didn't know that existed. I have never seen it in stores before. I tried to find it and I couldn't, so I just used a can of cream of chicken. But it has been a few weeks since I have filmed this recipe. I'm a little bit behind on my uploads, even though I have quite a bit filmed. I'm gonna work really hard this week to try and get everything out so I can get caught up. But anyways, so the other day I was at the Family Dollar of all places, and I came across a can of cream of bacon. Well, hopefully it's focusing in. Yeah, so it does exist, and I'm excited to try that in a recipe. I think it would be good with so many things. The number one thing on my mind right now is I think it would be really good in like potato soup, but we'll see. So anyways, I am going to jump on into the rest of the footage. After adding in those cans of cream of soup, I did not stir them. The instructions were really clear on that. And I'm assuming that is because if you did, the noodles probably wouldn't cook properly because it would be like too thick, if you know what I mean. But I just seasoned it up with some onion and garlic powder and lots of black pepper. Put my lid on, and I made sure that it was set into the sealing position. Then I'm going to hit my manual button, and I'm going to set that timer for 4 minutes. That's right, 4 minutes. That's it. That's why I love the Instant Pot. But as soon as that went off, I did a quick release and I just gave it a quick stir, making sure that nothing is stuck to the bottom. And then I'm going to add in this bag of triple cheddar cheese blend. That's about 2 cups. Even though the recipe called for 3, I knew that 2 would be plenty. Then I'm going to add in a full bag of some real bacon bits. If you don't like bacon bits like this, just simply fry you up a half a pack of bacon and crumble it up and toss it on in. But I'm just going to stir that until the cheese melts, and just look at how thick this gets and how creamy. This was a huge hit with all 4 of us. We all went back for seconds, so it is definitely a new Instant Pot favorite, and I'm just so glad that I came across this recipe. Josh was so happy to take the leftovers to work the next day. It was that good. And I just served it with some green beans and some of the frozen Sister Schubert rolls that I added some butter to. So yeah, this is definitely a must try. Now let's move on to the country fried steak and gravy. So if you've been with me for a while, I have mentioned a few times my struggles with this cut of meat, cube steak, and in a more recent What's for Dinner, I did an oven baked cube steak recipe that came out a little tough, and many of you guys left wonderful suggestions and tips, which I truly appreciate. So I took a few of those and tried them out in this recipe. So a big one was to pound out the meat to help tenderize it more, and also to soak it in buttermilk. So I've added my buttermilk to a large casserole dish, and I sprinkled in several dashes of Tabasco sauce for some extra flavor and heat. And I'm just giving that a quick whisk to get those 2 things combined. And then I'm going to season both sides of the meat with some Lawry's seasoned salt. Of course, I will repeat that until all of those are used up. And I'm just dunking those in the buttermilk, making sure that both sides are fully submerged. And then I'm going to cover my dish with some cling wrap, and I'm going to pop that in the fridge for several hours to soak. Fast forwarding to dinner time, I have prepared a flour mixture that has been seasoned with salt, pepper, onion and garlic powder, and some paprika. So after shaking off the excess buttermilk, I dredged it into the flour mixture, and then I put it into some hot vegetable oil that I had been heating up in my cast iron skillet. I was trying to be so very careful with this recipe so that it would turn out right. So I just cooked these one at a time, and I cooked those for about 3 minutes per side, and then I placed them all onto a wire rack that has been placed over a cookie sheet, and I popped these in the oven at 200 degrees while I prepared the gravy to keep them warm. So the gravy for this is super easy to make. I left about 4 tablespoons of the oil in the pan. I did have to discard some, and then I'm going to add in equal parts plain all-purpose flour. So 4 tablespoons of flour, and I'm just going to whisk that together and let that cook down for a couple of minutes just to cook out the flour and to help develop that deep, rich brown color. And then at this point, I'm going to add in 2 cups to about 2.5 cups of some half and half. And I'm just going to cook that for a few minutes until it's nice and bubbly like so, and until it's thickened to your liking. And at this point, you can add in the seasonings of your choice. I'm just using lots of black pepper and some salt, and that is literally it. It is ready to be served. To go along with this, I also made some homemade mashed potatoes and some peas, and then the final verdict on how this steak turned out. So the flavors and the gravy and breading was all incredible, and it did turn out better, but it was still a little on the tough side, which really disappoints me because I want to get this down so bad. So I just think I'm going to take a break from this cut of meat for a while, unless it's in the crock pot, and just work on it off camera until I get it right. This was the quickest and easiest meal of the week, but I could literally have this multiple times a week, every week, and be completely happy. It is just perfect. So I finally got my hands on a bag of these blackened chicken strips. This was my first time purchasing them because these are really hard to find where I live, but I scored some at Kroger, and I just air fried up a few pieces, chopped it up, and threw it on a bed of salad and drizzled it with some ranch. They are pretty spicy, which I love, and you wouldn't even know that these were frozen, which is rare in my opinion. So to go along with those, I also cooked up some of these loaded baked potato pierogies. I've had these sitting in my freezer for a little bit, and I have been craving them, so I figured it would pair well together, and I actually cooked these in the air fryer as well, and they turned out really good. So when they came out, I just sprinkled them with some parsley, and I have some sour cream on the side. This was the best meal ever. Next up is breakfast for dinner. I actually came across this French toast taco idea on Facebook, and I thought that was such a cool idea, just something different, and I could not wait to make this. So in a small, like 8x8 casserole pan, I added in a half a cup of milk, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. And y'all, I left out an important ingredient. I forgot the vanilla extract, and I did not realize it until I was eating it. I hate when that happens, but what can you do? You can't go back. So I just whisked all those ingredients together, set that to the side, and then the next thing I did was melt down some butter into my skillet. These are the tortillas that I'm going to be using. They are the lower carb ones, the Walmart brand, and I'm just going to take these one by one and dunk them in that mixture on both sides and just shake off the excess. So I'm just going to add that into the buttered skillet, and I'm just going to cook those for a couple of minutes on each side. And then I'm going to remove those to a wire rack, just like I did for the cube steaks. That way I can pop all of these in the oven at a low heat and keep those warm while I am preparing everything else. So the meats that we chose is these maple sausage links. I just cooked those up in the air fryer, and then I tossed some bacon in the oven to get that nice and crispy. These turned out so good, just like I thought they would, and drizzled with that maple syrup just made these perfection. If you want to impress somebody and it be low effort, you need to make these. I promise you won't regret it. And then to go along with it, I just air fried some russet potatoes, and then we just had a little simple side of cinnamon apples. This meal was so yummy. To end the week, we went out for dinner for Josh's birthday, and he chose Red Lobster. It's kind of funny because he is a big seafood lover, and I am the opposite, so I guess you could say opposites really do attract, but I pretty much always get the same thing when I go there. Of course, I love the garlic cheddar biscuits, and I love their Caesar salads, and this is my favorite dish from there, the Cajun chicken Alfredo. If you've never tried it, you have to. It is so delicious, and Josh loves the Admiral's Feast. And then the kids pretty much always get the same thing here. Boston's favorite food is macaroni and cheese, so of course he had to have that. And then Riley loves the chicken tenders and fries. But that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and found at least one thing that maybe you would like to try. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you all have the best day, and I will see you real soon.